Family disaster unfolds without me, my sister's wedding ruined. My name is David, and I've always been the kind of person who doesn't make waves. I'm quiet, observant, and patient to a fault. But that patience was put to the test when I was excluded from my sister Emily's wedding. I had always been there for her. I had been the one to support her through every heartbreak, every difficult decision, and all the little and big moments in her life. I was the older brother she could rely on, and I took that responsibility seriously. So when I received the wedding invitation, I was overjoyed. After all, we had always been close. But one morning, a week before the wedding, I received a message from my mother. David, don't take this personally, but we've decided not to invite you to Emily's wedding. I read the words over and over, trying to process them. Was this a joke? Was she just being dramatic? But no, it was real. I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding. I immediately called her, and her voice on the other end of the line was cold, distant. David, it's just a wedding. You're overreacting. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, I thought. This was Emily's wedding, one of the biggest events of her life, and I was being excluded. I was hurt, shocked, and angry, but instead of arguing, I just hung up. It felt like the end of an era, like I had been replaced by something or someone else. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, contemplating what to do. I could have begged for an explanation or tried to talk to Emily, but deep down, I knew it wouldn't change anything. She had made her decision. So, I decided to make mine, and I didn't tell anyone about my plans. I wasn't interested in their opinions or their apologies. I didn't even care if they found out. I'd never taken a vacation like this before, just a solo trip to a tropical island where I could clear my head, relax, and get away from the family drama. It was time to put myself first for once. As the days before the wedding passed, I kept my social media updated with pictures of the beach, the crystal clear water, and the endless sunsets. I posted just enough to make it clear that I was living my life without them. I wasn't going to pretend that everything was fine. I wasn't going to hide my happiness just because they had chosen to shut me out. My family knew I was on vacation. What else would they expect from me? They never knew how much I had given up over the years just to be there for them. How often I'd put my own dreams and needs on hold to serve as their emotional support. But I wasn't going to be anyone's doormat anymore. I wasn't sure if they even noticed. At first, it didn't matter to me. But as the days went by, I couldn't help but wonder if they'd realized how much they had hurt me. I had just finished a late lunch by the pool when my phone buzzed. A notification, a message from Alyssa, my cousin. David, you are not going to believe what's happening. The wedding is falling apart. The groom walked out after a huge fight with Emily. The guests are leaving, and the whole thing is turning into a disaster. Please, call us. I stared at the message, an odd sense of satisfaction bubbling up inside me. I didn't need to rush back. I didn't need to play the hero. I wasn't part of this mess anymore. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had made the right decision. My family had dismissed me without a second thought, and now they were getting exactly what they deserved. The groom walked out. Emily was freaking out. My mother was calling me desperately for help. I felt no desire to jump in and save them. They had created this mess, and now they had to deal with it. But the messages kept coming, and the more they came, the more I realized that I was no longer the person who would rush in to save the day. I was the one who was taking control of his life for once, and it felt amazing. The chaos from the wedding only escalated as the hours passed. The phone calls kept coming in, one after another. It was clear that they needed me, that they were desperate for someone to fix what had gone wrong. But I wasn't ready to help. Not this time. My mom's message came through next. David, please, your sister needs you. The groom left her. The ceremony's ruined. I don't know what to do. The words stuck, but they no longer had the power to hurt me. I felt a strange sense of empowerment, knowing that I wasn't tethered to this drama anymore. I had spent so many years being the dependable brother, the one who always put the family first. I had spent so much time being there for them, even when they didn't appreciate it. But now, I was in control of my own life, and I was not going to be dragged back into their mess. Instead of rushing to console Emily or even acknowledge the urgency in my mother's voice, I shut my phone off for the evening. I poured myself another margarita and walked along the beach at sunset. I could hear the sound of the waves crashing in the distance, a calming sound that reminded me of how far I'd come from the chaos of my family's world. Melissa's texts kept coming, but I didn't read them right away. She was trying to keep me informed. I understood that. She was probably worried about me, about what I would think of all this. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't about to go back to be their emotional punching bag. A part of me knew that what was happening at the wedding was tragic, but another part of me saw it for what it was. Karma. My family had treated me as though I was expendable, and now I was watching them spiral into their own mess. The groom walking out, it was a reflection of everything that had been wrong with their treatment of me. They had excluded me from their important day, and now they were paying the price. As the days went on, the wedding disaster was all anyone could talk about. I continued to post updates on my trip, carefully craft photos of me sipping cocktails, lounging by the pool, and exploring the island. My family's chaos was nowhere near my mind. It was a strange feeling to be so free from the burden of their expectations. For the first time in my life, I didn't care about their drama. Emily continued to reach out, her messages becoming more desperate. David, please come back. I need you. I don't know who else to turn to. The wedding is falling apart, and I can't fix it alone. Her words tugged at me, but not in the way they once would have. In the past, I would have been the one to comfort her, to help put things back together. But not anymore. I was finally putting myself first. For so long, I had put the needs of my family ahead of my own, and it had left me feeling drained, unappreciated, and hurt. But now, as I sat on the beach, I realized that this was my life. I was the one who had to be happy. I was the one who had to stop sacrificing everything for people who wouldn't do the same for me. By the end of the week, Emily had finally given up on trying to convince me to come home, but she was still reaching out. Her final message read, "I'm sorry, David. I didn't mean for things to end like this. I don't know how to fix this, but I hope one day we can talk again." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had found my peace, and that was more than enough. Eventually, I returned home. The family's wedding disaster had been resolved, but the damage had been done. Emily had moved on with her life, and so had I. When I arrived, I was greeted with lukewarm smiles, and awkward silences filled the air. It wasn't the grand reunion I had once expected, but I wasn't looking for their approval anymore. I didn't need their validation. I had learned a valuable lesson during my time away. Sometimes the best way to heal is to walk away from the chaos and take control of your own happiness. My family didn't understand my decision. They didn't understand why I had chosen to be so distant, so cold, but they never asked why I had made the choices I did. They never cared enough to find out. And now that was on them, I didn't feel guilty for my actions. I didn't regret taking the vacation, nor did I regret choosing to be away from the family drama. In fact, I was proud of myself for finally putting myself first. The old David, the one who always put his family first, was gone, and in his place was someone who knew that sometimes walking away from the people you love is the only way to truly find peace. As the months passed, the sting of the wedding incident slowly faded, but it left a lasting impression on me. I had always believed that family was everything, that blood was thicker than water, but that one event shattered that illusion for me. I realized that while family can be incredibly important, it doesn't mean that they are entitled to everything from you, especially your emotional energy. I began to see things in a new light. The space I had created for myself allowed me to reflect on my life and what I had been prioritizing all these years. I had been so focused on being the good son and good brother that I had neglected my own desires and goals. I had spent years trying to hold the family together, but in the end, they never asked me if I was okay. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how many things in my life had been dictated by their expectations: my career, my relationships, and even my dreams. Everything had been aligned to fit the narrative that they needed from me, and I was the dutiful character in their script. But I had my own story to tell now, and it didn't involve sacrificing myself anymore. I started traveling more, something I had always wanted to do but never had the courage to pursue. I went to places that were completely outside of my comfort zone, places that had no connection to my past. I wanted to carve out my own identity, free from the weight of their expectations. On one of my trips, I met a woman named Emma. She was a fellow traveler, someone who had also broken away from the confines of her family. We hit it off immediately, and over the course of a few weeks, we shared countless conversations about life, freedom, and the weight of family obligations. She had lived a life similar to mine, a life dictated by others, where her choices were always second-guessed, until one day, she had decided to stop living for everyone else. Together, we explored new cities, tasted new foods, and immersed ourselves in new cultures. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive, not burdened by the weight of others' opinions. I was living for myself. It wasn't long before I realized how much I had changed during this time away. I felt more confident, more assertive, and for the first time in years, truly happy. My relationship with my family had been strained ever since the wedding, but I didn't feel the desperate need to fix it. One afternoon, as I sat on a balcony overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, Emma and I talked about family. I mentioned the wedding disaster and how it had led me to reevaluate everything. You know, Emma said, her eyes thoughtful, sometimes families hold us hostage with their expectations. They don't even realize they're doing it. They just assume that you'll always be there, and they take and take until there's nothing left. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. That was it. That was exactly what had happened to me. I had been giving and giving to my family, and when they didn't need me, they cast me aside without a second thought. They never considered the toll it had taken on me. But I was done with that. I wasn't going to keep living my life for them. I wasn't going to let them dictate my happiness anymore. It was around this time that I received a phone call from my mother. I had been avoiding her for months, unable to bring myself to engage in another conversation that would just end in disappointment. But this time, something was different. I didn't feel the anger or frustration that I once did. I felt calm. David. My mom's voice came through the line, shaky and uncertain. I need to talk to you. I know things have been difficult between us, but I miss you. I'm sorry for how everything went down. I never meant to hurt you. I sat there in silence for a moment, taking in her words. Was this really happening? Was my mother admitting she was wrong? I could hear the genuine regret in her voice, but part of me was still hesitant. Part of me was still scared that this was just another attempt to manipulate me back into the fold, to make me the person I once was, the one who would always put them first. No matter the cost. But this time, I wasn't that person anymore. I took a deep breath and said, I know you didn't mean to hurt me, Emma, but I need you to understand that I can't be the person you want me to be anymore. I need to live my life for myself. I can't keep sacrificing my happiness for the sake of keeping everyone else happy. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her sniffling, but I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. For once, I wasn't responsible for her emotions. Finally, she said, I understand, David. I really do. And I'm sorry for what I did. I just want you to be happy. That's all. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if this meant that my relationship with my family would ever fully heal. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. It wasn't about going back to the way things were, but about moving forward, together, or apart, in a way that allowed both of us to grow. In the months that followed, I continued to grow into the person I had always wanted to be. I didn't rush back into family gatherings, nor did I feel the need to constantly check in. I had become comfortable with my own space and my own company. I had learned to enjoy my life without constantly worrying about what others thought of me. When I visited my family again, it was on my own terms. I wasn't the same David who had been desperate for their approval. I wasn't the one who would always say yes to everything just to keep the peace. I was stronger now, more confident in my choices, and more determined to live a life that made me happy. The dynamic between me and my family had shifted. There were still awkward moments, especially with Emily, who had never fully understood why I had walked away from everything. But as time passed, she too began to see that I wasn't just abandoning her, I was choosing myself for once. And that, in itself, was a lesson. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't without its struggles. But I had learned that sometimes, in order to find peace and happiness, you have to walk away from the things and people that hold you back, even if they are your family. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I had simply outgrown the role I had been forced to play in their drama. And now, I was the writer of my own story, the one who would choose how it unfolded. And for the first time, I was excited about what came next.